I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a,
On this
that
sad
is a
clown.
sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Shout out to our sponsors. Major Team Mortgage, Omaha Laser Dentistry, Exclusively Eye Care, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avier Wealth Management, and Apex Men's Clinic. We appreciate their support. Now let's get back to the
Are you the type
gloom.
of guy that likes to get up early in the winter to battle your jester? Do you love listening to people drone on and on and on about COVID in the gloom? Would you trust your vision to a guy nicknamed Cataracts? Well, if the answer to any of these questions is yes, fellas, you have bigger problems than you think. Dr. Cataracts, aka Dr. Wolf, can't solve all of your problems, but he can certainly help you solve the problems related to your eye health and vision. You will find many F3 principles throughout his practice. Check him out today at Exclusively Eye Care.
Now let's get back to the gloom.
And we're back. I've got a really good-looking guy here today, although I was expecting him to be wearing like a bow tie and a little tuxedo, but he's not. But man, just had a great time catching up with this guy a few minutes before we hit the record button. Just really love his leadership, vulnerability, just the way he cares about others. And so I got Chippendale on, and man, it's good to see you. Where we'd like to get started is just first workout, who EH'd you, any stories or memories from that, and then how'd you get the name Chippendale? I don't think I know that story, so I'm excited to hear that.
You don't know this story? Oh my goodness! All right, well, glad to share it. So my first workout, who was leading that? Bubbles was on the queue. It was at Top Rope. It was back in 2020, so October of 2020, height of COVID stuff, which was very, very interesting. And that first workout, I didn't really know what to expect. So I got in EH'd by several people, but essentially Mufasa drugged me out there because we're neighbors essentially. Jean-Claude had talked to me multiple times about that, and I thought that was the craziest idea ever. But essentially, Mufasa stopped in my driveway and said, "Hey, tomorrow morning I'm picking you up, so you're coming out."
Nice.
And I agreed, and met Bubbles that first day.
Gotta love a good Bubbles cue, right?
Yes, it was full of interesting things like monkey humpers and stuff. I had no clue what I was doing, but went along with it and, thought it was a contest, right? Who's going to be the best and most in shape. And I would have lost that one completely. So I'd maybe even lose that today.
Well, yeah, you and me both, man. My fitness is dropping as we've had more kids, but so once you got in the circle, tell us about the name story. How did they land on Chippendale?
So one, I couldn't breathe. I was still gassed from the workout, and of course, no heads up on, hey, you're entering the circle. So they Bubbles invites me in, and I said, hey, I'm Brian Farley. I've got 4 daughters. I love soccer. I played soccer and wrestled in college. I, just started telling them a few things. I'm in mortgage lending, and they're like, Farley, SNL, Chippendale, boom. And it was like, bam, they went right to Saturday Night Live and Patrick Swayze and all that stuff. So that's how I ended up with Chippendale. So it was fast.
Not because of a former career in dancing or anything like that.
Oh, I wish. I can't. I have a hard time dancing and being coordinated enough to do that.
Oh, I love it. You're not the first guy that's told us Mufasa likes to EH guys and then not give you any details about what to expect. So I don't know if it's definitely his how he does it. So, and that
Yes.
seemed to work, right? What was your progression? Did you go to a workout on Thursday, or when? What was your second workout? Do you remember?
Gosh, so second one, I don't remember. I know it wasn't
Okay.
Thursday. Um, I had a hard time sitting down. I hadn't worked out really consistently for many, many years after college and playing soccer and wrestling. I was
Mhm.
done. I didn't really want to do much of anything. And I belonged to Lifetime and drove by there and waved my couple $100 goodbye. And I would go there every once in a while. And what I didn't realize until later was I'm better at taking
Hmm.
orders. Like I loved showing up and they're like, do Merkins, do burpees, and just ready, set, go. And I would be like, oh, I can do that. But I would go to the gym and I was like, oh, I think I did this in high school. I should do
Right.
that here. And I was just bored by
Yeah.
myself.
That's a really good point, that like putting together your own workout plan is not easy, right? Like trying to go to the gym
No,
and figure out, and that's how I think you end up. Like right now I lift weights a couple days a week, and I'm pretty sure I'm just doing arms and chest. Like I need a weight. I need to come up with a program or something. But so talk us through a little bit your fitness journey. So you played soccer, and that, seemed like, where'd you play, I guess? Tell us about that.
I played at
Okay.
Briarcliff College in Sioux City, um, which NAI school, real small. We had a bunch of good athletes, not very good soccer players, so we did okay. But it was really just a chance to keep playing and enjoying the soccer thing. And I really didn't understand soccer till I was in
Okay.
college. That's where my soccer knowledge went to another level. It was cool to see. Um, but I just remember being in great shape. I could run, 5, 6 miles and not even be
Hmm.
winded. And I just like those were really good times. But once I was done with that, I mean, was a lot of years of working out and just
Yeah.
burnt out. And then priorities in life and kids took over, and
Yeah,
my own fitness kind of put that on the back burner for a
for
long, long
sure.
time.
Are you from Omaha?
Originally
Okay.
from Lincoln,
Perfect.
went to Pius High School in Lincoln and
So
grew
kind
up
of
there.
from this area, did you play soccer against all
Yeah.
these guys that went to Hastings, or
So I played against
okay,
some of them. I didn't know
right.
them then. Um, Hastings was kind of a rival
Okay.
for sure
But can you vouch, like, was
back
Tonight
then.
Show as good as he says he is, or
I don't remember
okay,
playing
so
against him.
at least he was not memorable, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Tonight Show. Yeah, that would be a good description
Right.
of Tonight
Oh,
Show.
that's
Yeah.
too funny. I'm gonna give him a hard time about that.
He probably doesn't
Right,
remember
yeah.
me either. So
Yeah,
there you
no, I
go.
love it. It's just funny to, like, it's such a small world, like when you start thinking about, like, wow, we interacted then, and and now here we are in F3 together. Um,
Yes.
I just had that happen this morning with a guy that, anyway, long story short, it's just small world. What, as you think
Yeah.
about then, as you started getting into F3, was there a point where you started getting more consistent, or did you go to weights workouts, or where did you find yourself kind of getting back in that groove of more routine fitness?
Well, so I was real spotty to
Hmm.
start, and some of it was the height of 2020 was in my workaday world was really extremely busy, and I was working day and night, and it got hard, but I was encouraged to keep coming out. Jean Claude was very good about asking me to come out and encouraging me to come to Titan Alley. He was
Psych you there.
the site Q
Yeah.
at Titan Alley at the time. And so he's like, hey, you got to come down here and do this Murph thing. And I'm like, that sounds terrible. Um, and I
Hmm.
did it, of course, and about threw up that morning, but they were gracious to me and helped me along. It was a lot of fun. And then that became my Monday morning was Titan Alley. Smurfing, Murphin. That was almost every Monday for quite some
Nice.
time. And so I was sporadic at the beginning, and then started to get into a groove where it became part of my schedule and getting to bed and getting up, and it was always the guys are going to be
Mm.
out there. Like Vandelay's going to be there, and Jean Claude's going to be there, and Plague's going to be there. It was just like I got to know these guys that I'd run with or be standing next to, and it was like, dang
Yeah.
it, that accountability just pulled me
That's
in.
awesome. And curious if you would tell us a little bit more about that, because I feel like you were pretty well connected before, but then how did you grow those relationships, or what was sort of your approach to getting to know some of the guys? Because I feel like the number of guys you're connected with now is, I mean, I don't know if it's more than it was when you started, or if maybe you just already knew those guys because of work, or.
I didn't know a lot of them. I mean, some of them I really desired to get to know the guys because I didn't have any connection with them. So I just started showing up early, pre-running, and that's where a lot of the conversations happened. Or I did a lot of listening, but I got to know them, and I was blown away with whether it was running with U-Haul or Othello or whoever. Like these guys have all different backgrounds. Or I ran with Sven, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
or Pea Soup, and I'm like, what the heck? You guys do this, and I'm like here, like, oh my gosh, you guys are incredible people. And I just loved hearing their stories, and that was my favorite line. I would start running, so I'd talk early, and during the pre-run, I'm like, hey, tell me your story. I'm so excited to hear it, and I just be quiet.
There you go. That's a good approach for that. I like that. I need to do more of that probably. I ran this morning in the rain with Bouncer, and man, just those conversations while you're running for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because you kind of get delirious halfway through or what, but you go to a different level, and it's sort of like, I can't believe we were just talking about that, but it's so cool and it's so necessary. So kudos to you on that. What about, just curious, it kind of on this like second F piece, as you think about other opportunities, so Q Source or coffee, or how long did it take you to get involved in some of those things, or maybe even happy hour or lunches?
So I've participated in all the above at some point, whether depending on schedules and all that. But I love the pre-runs. I love the conversation piece there. Cafeteria is great. Like I didn't, I always had the morning with the young kids. I had the morning running kids to school, so it was leaving at 7:25 to get to school. So having to get home, get kids out of bed, making sure that all happens, breakfast, lunches, all that. So I was kind of sporadic on the coffee, but that's kind of my happy place, is really sitting and enjoying coffee with guys. So that second F, and done some of the happy hours and first Friday lunches, and gosh, those are always just really good times. Half the guys you don't recognize because you're like coming off winter. You're like, oh,
you have hair.
You
have
yeah. I've introduced myself to guys. I'm like, hey, Chippendale. And they're like, I was just with you this morning. I'm like, oh,
well, that's all right. I love that. When you get a text or you see somebody and you're like, you're with your family. It never fails. I'm with my family and I'm trying to introduce the guy and I'm like, this is, and I don't know your real name. It's like, I'm getting better, but it's hard to keep track of it all, right?
What do we call that? F3 in the wild, seeing them in the wild. Like it happened to me the other day. I saw somebody there like, hey, Chippendale. And I was like,
yeah,
good to see you. And I was at a loss. I was like, oh man.
Yeah. Hoser and I were at the same event, and we both went up to get a drink at the same time. And I like look over, and in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, I could probably EH this guy. And then I look at him again, and I'm like, Hoser? He's like, Plague? Like, it was just this moment of like, wait a minute. And then of course it was, after that, it was hard for our wives to get us to leave because we were, then we were actually having fun at this thing that was kind of a horse event. But, nice. In Free to Lead, it talks a little bit about like male loneliness, or like, the power of having strong male relationships. What's been your journey with that? Like, do you feel like throughout life you've had some of those key friends in place, or has F3 helped with that? Or what's your take on sort of that issue when it comes to F3?
So I have been very fortunate, and I have a handful of really close male connections. One of them is like my best friend from college. I'm still really tight with him today. He knows everything about me, all the skeletons in the closet. He knows my kids. He's been there through everything. Long time friend. And that he's probably the one I lean on the most. His F3 name's Travelocity.
Okay. Nice.
You wouldn't know him because I think he's been out twice. I think they've both been anniversary cues for me, so I've drug him out. But he's probably one of the guys that I've leaned on the most for 20 plus years.
That's cool.
And I talk to him, if not every 2 days, every 3 days, and him and I lead a Bible study together on Friday mornings. Him and I have done a lot. He recommends books to me. He is really integrated into my life, cool. And my kids' life. So yeah, that's
awesome.
That was something that's been in place for a long time. That wasn't something I was really searching for. However, I believe, just raising girls, it takes a village, and I don't know how many times at coffee or running, I remember Girl Dad early on asking him about like one of his daughter's scenarios and my youngest daughter's medical situation, just asking like, what do you do? How do you deal with this? And so it takes a village to, raise these girls. And I've leaned on a lot of the guys over time for prayers and advice. Yeah. Which is always needed.
Man, that's so key, because I feel like you never know when you show up, you never know what's going to be going on, in somebody else's life, or what they'll be going through, or what you'll be going through, and it's like, I feel like I know I've had several mornings where it's like, I just need to go and share something out loud and have somebody say, you'll get through it, or me too, or, I feel like that's one of the best parts about F3. Do you feel like as you've progressed in F3, do you feel like you've built some more friendships that are at that level, or kind of hard to compete with somebody you've known for 20 years? But do you feel like you've gotten close with some other guys, or added to that?
I feel like I have. The relationships are really good, and I think they've definitely grown. A lot of it's being transparent, being vulnerable to people, and I think I do a okay job at that. Probably not the best, but I think there's room for improvement in that area. Letting more guys in, and vice versa. Giving back to them. But
for sure. Well, that's where the shield lock kind of comes in, and just kind of curious if you had a chance to get in a shield lock, or is that not something you've had an opportunity to participate in?
So I haven't. I think it's an unofficial shield lock. I don't know what you'd call it. A lot of the Southwest guys, Southwest Omaha, Escobar and Kickstand and Light Bright, and those guys, and Yogi and Rowdy, and kind of text accountability. I'm probably the quiet person in that group.
Yeah.
they would probably tell you the same. They're like, "Oh, Chippendale,
Yeah.
what? Who's he?" But those guys are, little do they know, probably as quiet as I am, just going and doing my life and trying to fit in stuff that I can. The stuff they say is encouraging. The stuff they do, or where they're posting, or where they're going to be at this week, like it affects me. It draws me in to want to do more, but sometimes I gotta pick and choose what I'm prioritizing.
Yeah,
honestly.
I kind of have learned when Escobar gives you a nickname on top of your nickname, I think he calls you Chipper or so then that means you're kind of you're in that shield lock, I think, right? Part of that group.
Yeah, they're wonderful people, man. They have hearts of gold, and they're fantastic.
I have to share. Saturday, we were Hoser and I were two of the people helping clean up this horse barn, and I was texting a few people where we were at, and not expecting anybody to show up, but a few guys showed up, and of course Escobar's wearing his F3 shirt, and it was kickstand, Escobar, light bright, mulch, and I think barbed wire. And hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody, but they show up and Hoser's wife sees this F3 shirt and just starts bawling. What are you guys doing here? I can't believe you're here to help. Like, just, so you're absolutely right. Those guys were like, where's the help needed? We're going, it's like, which was so cool. But, the other part kind of within the second F piece of like relationships, we talk about like the concentrica. So your M and your 2.0. So your relationship with your wife and your kids. How have those things progressed over the last couple of years? Do you feel like as you've been around this group of guys kind of having that positive influence, or guys maybe in a COT, or do you feel like, have you noticed any improvements or changes in those other relationships?
I really have. I think with my 2.0s, it's been a wonderful, conversation piece, and I definitely hear stuff in COTs, and it challenges me to go home and have those conversations. And a lot of it's really just being an example. I mean, the way I lead in my house is by being an example. My kids are very athletic, very involved in athletics. And, if they see me up early working out, taking care of myself, like, I don't need to tell them anything, just show them. And I think that's been positive for them. And then, for my M, there's a lot of conversations that stem from COTs, challenges where, Vlasic will say something and I'm like, gosh, I should really pay attention to that and really should go home and ask. And, it's challenged me as a father on being a better dad and being a better role model for my kids.
Yeah. How is it raising 4 girls? What's that like? We've got our 3rd kid on the way. We don't know the gender. I'm fairly certain it's going to be a girl. So I'm looking to you for how do you do that with 4 girls?
It's when they're young, they're unbelievable. They're so good. I have 2 basically teenagers now, and that's been an adjustment, something that I'm not used to. I'm not understanding. It gets hard. I'm struggling through it. I'm reading books. So I'm just trying. I don't have the corner on raising girls. That's for sure.
You're ahead of me by far in the with their ages. So I'll reach out in a few more years and see if you figured it out. Because I know what I was like as a teenage boy, and that makes me terrified to be raising girls.
Me too.
Which is which maybe one of the things we're hoping to do in F3 is influence men to raise their boys better. I'm hoping, but I don't know. There's some stuff that might just be ingrained in our DNA as men that I don't know. What
I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah. The other piece, and you kind of mentioned this with Travelocity, caught a little bit of a note there about the Bible study that you lead, but curious when you think about faith, what's been your journey, your kind of story on that third F faith side?
So faith has always been a something I grew up with, something that I'm passionate about. Um, you and I have had conversations for sure on this, but I grew up Catholic grade school, high school, college, fell away from my faith for a season there, but it's always been really ingrained in me and something that's a super high priority. And one of the one of the things that I started doing was, on kind of my girls' school, I'd be sitting at games, basketball games or volleyball, whatever, and hear dads, non F3 dads, talking about their wives and
Mm.
their, and just the names they would refer them to. And I was like, this is not good. I got to fix this. And I was like, you know what? I'm already up super early in the morning. I'm going to start a Bible study on Thursday mornings and give up my Thursday morning, either Iditarod or
Maze, yeah.
whatever. And I was like, the maze. Went to the maze a lot, but gave up going there to start a Bible study on Thursday mornings. I happened to go this morning because I haven't been there in almost 8 months. I started it probably 2 years ago. I showed up. There was 15 new faces that I don't know that are all there, still going and working and pouring into each other. I was like, this
Yeah.
is awesome. This is cool. This is why I started this with a friend of mine, and this is what I wanted
That's
it to do,
awesome.
was make an impact on some men outside F3. And now there's uh, a guy in that group who saw me talking about F3, and I would show up and work out before the Bible study in the parking lot. And now he just took the flag at Trident.
Oh my gosh,
So
Pitchfork. Yeah.
Pitchfork. So he's in that Thursday morning Bible study. So he was
Wow,
there
that's super cool.
this morning, and he's been in that group for quite some time. But he was always asking me, like, I'd wear an F3 shirt or I'd work out and do like
Yeah,
pull ups or a Murph, and then pop in there at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
and then now he's
yeah. Because
leading
his twin brother,
the
he's got a
site crew
twin
over there.
brother who's also in F3. What's his name?
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't know
yeah,
it. He's a Sarpy guy,
yeah. Well,
but he does have a twin
yeah,
brother
I
doing
was
it.
just there at the Shovel Pass, and I can picture them because they look the same. But yeah,
Yes.
that's so
Yep.
cool. So now, kind of like meshing these two groups together, almost, right?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So now him and I were volunteering at the school yesterday, doing some stuff for a color run for
Yeah,
the kids. And as soon as he saw me, he's like, "Dude, show pass this and that." Got the
yeah.
flag. I said, "Get me on the queue
Hmm.
schedule," and so we started talking about
That's
it. So
awesome.
just a bond,
Yeah,
another bond. It's great.
it's so cool too because there's kind of this like every man needs F3, F3 needs every man kind of thing, and depending on where a guy is at, maybe they're already doing a Bible study and they come into F3 and their faith is really strong, but they haven't been disciplined in their fitness or their relationships. But are you EHing more of those guys? I think is the question. You got to keep going on Thursdays and EH those guys, and then EH some F3 guys to come to the Bible study.
Yeah. That's I talked to them, a lot of them about it. A lot of them
Mm-hmm.
know. Just now getting them out of bed on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or a
Right,
Friday.
right.
But
What do you think? Yeah, you mentioned your journey. You've maybe for a season fell away from your faith and then kind of got back into it. Was there anything in that space that kind of helped you get back into things? A lot of guys that we talk to are in the season where they've fallen away and maybe haven't gone back to explore what they believe. And I don't know, curious from your experience, what was there anything, or it was just sort of you just remembered like, oh yeah, this needs to be a priority, and so you made it happen, or how'd you do that?
yeah, it's a kind of a combination of both. But Travelocity, I I got a chance to be connected with him, and we have a similar journey because we were so tight, but we kind of fell away, and then we changed our association. At that same time, we changed our association of friends, and the new association of friends. Thank goodness, thank God, they were further down the journey and the path than we were, and it drew us in. And we just, when we changed our association, what we realized is these guys and gals, they had fun. They didn't have the same language that all of our other friends did, and we're like, why are you guys so different? Why are you such givers? Why are you so interested in us? And that's what pulled us in. And then we turned. We changed. We started going back to church and getting involved and reading more. And
when you say you changed your association, do you mean you just went to a different denomination? Am I hearing you right? Or what do you mean by that, I guess?
Just a different set of friends.
Got it.
Yeah, we just changed our friend association.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it. The friends that were distractors or not really going in the right direction. That's good, and that's hard to do. I've had to do that for sure in my lifetime. But what I guess. Tell me.
Yes, you did. Tell me. and my path was very similar. Like I went down. I was a soccer player, so it was a lot of drinking and stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And when you get around people that that's what they do for fun, that's what drags you in. And when I changed that association, it just made all the difference in the world. And it wasn't easy. I lost a lot of friends because of that. Which is
I'm curious because a lot of people ask me this question, and I think we sometimes we have to be careful because not everybody is an alcoholic or an addict, right? But in your journey, did you get to that point where it was hard to stop, or you were just sort of like, this is getting out of hand, and it sounds like you were able to kind of redirect pretty easily.
Yeah, it was just too much, too frequent, so changed. And it was easy to recognize.
Just realized time to grow up a little bit and moved on. I love it. Yo, Gloom listeners, it's the Plague. And today I'm talking about getting your finances as fit as your physique. Our very own F3 Omaha brother, Jean-Claude, aka Michael Pfluger at Avior Wealth Management, specializes in building personalized financial plans. He understands the journey you walk in life as a man of faith, safeguarding your family and creating a legacy. Jean-Claude is ready to help you plan your finances with intention so that you can live with purpose. And that's just the beginning when you work with the Avior Wealth team. Visit avior.com/F3. That's AVIOR.com/F3 and see how Michael can guide your financial journey today. Curious as you're thinking about the third F, the other piece, that kind of comes up in this realm is the community service stuff. And just curious if there's, what's been your experience with that? Have you had any opportunities to do the Abide or Heartland Hope or any of those things?
Heartland Hope. I haven't. It's, a lot of times those are on weekends or whatever it might be. And my schedule just doesn't really allow with my wife. She works on the weekends on Saturday. So that's kind of dad day to run kids around. So I get caught up in that. So those are days I see guys at volleyball tournaments or basketball tournaments and bump into them. But so I haven't really done a whole lot with that. However, I did, I think that's so important. I like my daughters, we volunteer for, what is Creighton Prep's deal? They help out families. I'm escaping the name, but every Christmas they do that, or right around in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, they do an event. Can't believe I can't remember the name of it, but we volunteered for that, and we took food and stuff to families, needy families, and so that's always a blessing to see my kids deliver food to an apartment, and they're like, wow, I can't believe people live here. Like, this is different than what they understand and know.
Yeah. Well, another good example of leading by example, right? Kind of showing them, hey, here's what we do, right? We serve other people, and there's so many opportunities. I was just talking with Cheap Seats this morning about somehow we got to find some volunteer opportunities that are available throughout the week, because Saturdays are just, as kids get older and get into more activities, you just get busier. And so then Saturdays are, it's harder to find 14, 15 guys that can go serve at a place. Which, I think either, I don't know if we need to move events to the week, or maybe we need to look at how we're spending time. But I think when you got 4 kids and they're all doing activities, I'm sure your your weekends are pretty much scheduled out for you guys.
My automatic answer is people are like, "Hey, you available this
No.
weekend?" No, catch me in 10 years. Like, my automatic answer is no. Like, and that's actually, with my personality, that's really hard for me, because naturally my answer to everyone is yes. And I've had to go to a season of no's, which is not easy for me, because I want to say yes. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
available. I want to do other things, but can't do it.
Yeah. How have you overcome that? Because I think there's a lot of us that struggle with that. I know that's a challenge for me too. But or has it been simple? You're like, nope, family's first, and this is what we're doing. Or how have you
Oh,
worked through that?
well, it's not simple, because it comes with razzing, and
Mm-hmm.
people are like, "What? Come on, we need you here." It's like, I know. I just, and I really had to come to the grips with, my answer is going to be no for a little bit, and it's just the season I'm
Mm-hmm.
in. It's just no. I mean, and if I can't make a morning, or if I can't make an event, it's okay. Life moves on. It's
Yeah.
The answer is no, and I can't say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And I want to say yes to my kids and my family. Like, I really had to change my mindset on that, because especially with my job tends to be a little demanding, especially on weekends, Saturdays, Sundays. People are looking at houses, buying houses, calling me,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I would get to the point where I'd get overwhelmed with stress of being available and saying yes to work. And then I got to the point where I was like, I get to go to my kids' games. I get to fly to Los Angeles to do a soccer tournament. I get to
Mm-hmm.
go to Chicago. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah.
that's what I tell myself.
Yeah. Well, and if you say it enough, right, starts to become more reality. You start to get more grateful for it, and yeah, I love that, because I think the world will always take what we give it, right? Like the world, our jobs, nobody's going to tell you like work less, right? That's not really a
No.
common message, so even with work, putting up those boundaries, I think is amazing. So kudos to you for doing that. um Want to segue a little bit into your time as a site Q at Mission Forge, and kind of this, we're trying to reinvigorate male community leadership, and the site Q role is maybe one of the ways we try to do that. But what was that like, being the site Q? Tell us kind of your journey, and I would be curious if you feel like that role helped with anything from a leadership perspective, or what's your take on that?
Well, I think if there's an award for the best site Q, I would be in the mix
Yeah.
for that award. I really do. honestly, honestly, um, I didn't know what was all involved in being a site Q. Really didn't have a desire to be a site Q. Um,
Hmm.
and of course, Yogi and Escobar cornered Kickstand and I. Did a pre-run, talked about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm all in. Like, let's do this. And T claps to Kickstand. To be honest, I'm
Hmm.
probably on the bottom of as far as site queues. 2023 was probably one of the hardest years for me, work wise, personally, um, and Kickstand and I took the flag. I was really excited about Gung Ho. This is awesome. Teaming up with Kickstand, which I love Kickstand. And about halfway through the year, um, my life got really hard. It just got really complicated, really challenging, and I stepped away and I wasn't around.
Mm.
And thank God Kickstand picked up my slack. And I will be forever grateful for him doing that because Mission Forge carried on, and there's a bunch of new guys there, F and G's, and it's just fantastic. And really, he identified Barbed Wire Anonymous to kind of take that over, and he did fantastic. So, but I
Yeah,
think as far as leading, I think being a site Q was built up in my head to be bigger than it really is.
sure.
Um, I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but that's kind of how it felt, and it was an honor to be asked, um,
Right.
and an honor to do it. But thank God for Kickstand.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the CoQ site queue kind of deal is a newer thing, maybe the last, 3-ish years. And I think there's a reason we do that. Right. And I think it's, not just that, but if guys have a job that maybe they can't be there every week but you never know when something's going to come up. Right. And, I'm curious, and you don't have to if you're not comfortable. Can you elaborate on anything that was going on in 23 that made it challenging for you?
Oh, it's a big ball of wax, but and it was kind of a culmination of a lot of different things. Whether my daughter, my oldest daughter, starting high school, me being roped into, I'm the shuttle bus for multiple girls in our area of town to drive them over to 72nd and Military over to Marion High School.
Hmm.
And so getting them up early, they had to be up and out the door by 6:30. So that became really, really challenging. Work wise was a very challenging year. Um, my wife took on some more responsibilities. So it was kind of a culmination of a lot of things that didn't allow me to be all
Sure.
in, which was really, really challenging, really, really hard for me.
Yeah, and you were being asked to step up in some of your other responsibilities, right?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Yeah, trying to get kids to school by 6:30. Yeah, and there's a lot of you got to make sure they wake up, and you got to, for sure. Well,
Yeah,
I
not easy.
appreciate you just sharing that, and I think there's, just sort of an awareness of, everybody's going through something, right? And it doesn't have to be even anything tragic necessarily. It's just as your season changes, as your family changes, maybe your M gets a new job or your kids move into a different sort of season of their school or whatever it might be. I mean, I think there's so many things that impact our abilities to do extra stuff, So yeah, and at the Shovel Pass, you made it seem like you were there the whole time. I mean, I don't think anybody, I think it was like, oh yeah, Chippendale. He's
Yeah, it was a facade. I
yeah,
was not.
yeah. Well, definitely appreciate your leadership. Any just from the time that you feel like maybe you were able to contribute, do you feel like you came across anything that would be good advice for site queues as maybe guys are taking on a flag or looking to lead a site?
The only thing I would say is don't fear it, embrace
Mm-hmm.
it, jump in. You got a ton of help, ton of support. Especially leading a site, people happily volunteer to um, lead and queue a day. Just ask them.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of people just at coffee or First Friday lunches or whatever it was. Like, hey, you'd be good. Come on over to Mission Forge.
Yeah.
Um, and then kind of building that schedule. We had the schedule built out a long ways.
Yeah.
And so it was a little challenging. Kickstand ran a lot of that even right when we started the scheduling stuff. And I did some things and he did others. Um, and he did it all. But really just trying to build in some VQs in there and jumbling people around. So, um, but it's a great opportunity to get to know guys and guys look up
Mm-hmm.
to you. Um, so I would say jump in, embrace it, do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there have been a lot of new guys at Mission Forge, which is just wild to see because I don't get south too often, although I try. But at the Shovel Pass, I feel like there were several guys that I'm like, wow, I don't know that I, boob tube or some of those
Yeah.
guys that I haven't worked out with very often. And it's just cool to see new guys showing up and then they're engaged and they're leaning in, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great to see them. It's really fun, really encouraging.
What about just other advice in general? Maybe it's for a new guy or guys that haven't been in F3 for very long. Anything you would share from just your experience?
Um, but one of the things I would just encourage people to do is, modify as necessary,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be afraid to just get out there, be consistent, and modify. If you're, in the world of EHing people, people are like, oh, I got to be in shape to come out there. Look at you guys. It's like, no, you
Right.
join F3 to get into shape, not the other way around. And it's so true, but I think people fear that or are concerned with that. And I would just say, get in, modify, and enjoy the relationships. I've heard many people say, I love the coffee. I go for coffee. And
Yeah.
What was it? Fine
Yeah.
Print said that or something. Um, and I enjoy that. I mean, I got to know Blades and Cheap Seats pre-running around Lake Zorinsky on a
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, and Barn Door. Shoot, we did that all winter long, and I was like, these guys are crazy. They're in such good shape, and they would hang back and drag me across
Yeah.
the path. But um, that's the stuff that's enjoyable to me. Really, really doing that, getting to know people.
Yeah, I love it. And there's so many opportunities, so many different things now. It's like, and we keep adding more.
Yes.
Seems like to the list. What I forgot to ask you this earlier, but I guess where are you at today on your first F fitness wise? Are you back to those college soccer days, or you got some room to go, or where are you at?
Well, definitely room to grow. I'm kind of I like the pain, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll be really good for a while, and then I'll tail off, and then I'll jump back in, and then I'm sore again. I'm like, why do I do that to myself?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I ran my first 10K, 5K, 10K, all in F3. I couldn't run around the block or run to the mailbox and back, but um, then we were doing 5K every day.
Mm-hmm.
That just seemed foreign, like I would never get to that point, and did that all the
Yeah.
time, and it's really great. So now I have, I'd love to do a half someday. One of the
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there've been a couple guys doing their first half. My running mileage has gone way down since our second daughter was born in 21, and so I'm like I see guys out there on Sundays. I'm so jealous. I can't get out there. The
I
weekends
think
for
we got
us
to
are just
clarify your running going down.
well, yeah. If you look at my Strava data,
Yeah,
I think it just
I'm checking it right now.
yeah yeah
It's still more
just
than mine.
right. Oh man. Well, what's next for you? What season are you in right now? Where do you need prayers, encouragement? Next time we see you out there, what's something we should check in with you on?
Well, I think prayer requests for sure would be patience,
Hmm.
in raising my daughters, just to have that patience and that ability maybe to think before you speak would be
Yeah.
great. 'Cause sometimes
Hmm.
they don't want to hear me; they just want me to listen. Um, so patience. Um, I would love prayers to be a better encourager and be more consistent and coming out and being present and all of that, because I do enjoy F3. I enjoy everything it's about. I love seeing guys out in the wild. I love seeing all the good that as an organization we're doing. It's
Yeah.
impressive. It stands out for sure.
Yeah. What, just curious for you, what gets you out? Is it somebody texting you the night before, or or it just kind of depends? Like what's the tipping point if we're like, okay, we got to get Chippendale out there? What do we got? We have to tell you we're going to do a bunch of burpees, or you know.
Oh, you and your burpee challenge. I, uh, yeah, it's encouraging just to
Mhm.
let me know who's going to be where and what's going on, and that usually that peer pressure, that little poking,
Yeah.
um, it does encourage me to get out there. And it's finding the balance of I need sleep now. I need to be
Yeah.
there, be present. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are always good.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a few guys that are exploring what it looks like to get good sleep, and I will tell you, the idea of a afternoon or a later morning workout has definitely come up. We haven't launched anything, but I know there's a few guys that are like, "Hey, sleep's really important for your health," and I'm still in denial on that. I think, but I know for a fact it's good for you. So trying to
It
balance all
is,
this is
it
hard.
is, and I think that just sometimes kids are at different phases.
Yeah,
They're going to bed early, so it's easy to go to bed early as they become teenagers and high school, and man, they don't start doing stuff till 10, 11 o'clock. And it's
right.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard
When
to
they
stay
get to
awake.
that age, do you feel like, do you go to bed before your kids go to bed? Now that they're
I I do most
okay.
nights. I do get some ribbing on that, like from my M's, like, hey, we're still awake. Like, you need to be awake. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yes, it's how do you got to do both things, but you can't go to bed and everyone's awake, and
Yeah.
so that's hard.
Yeah. Well, man, I'll be praying, definitely praying for you on the patience piece. I think there's a lot of us that can identify with the need there, and then I'll be reaching out as my girls get older, and I'm looking for advice. So if anybody's got that figured out, have them call the hotline, right?
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. I'll
awesome.
be
Well, I
tuning in.
appreciate you, man, just sharing your story, and it's always a pleasure when I get to see you out there in the gloom, and it's been great talking to you today. So we'll do a little Namerama. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, I'll start here. Brandon Flehardy, 38, The Plague.
Ah,
Ah!
Brian Farley, 45, Chippendale.
Chippendale. And what's the call sign? We haven't come up with one yet.
I don't. So a lot of the guys say I mumble. Brian Farley, 45, Chippendale. So and
Yeah.
then after I do that, they all mumble. So
Okay.
I don't
Sounds
know.
like
Say it real
yeah.
fast.
Yeah, say it real fast. Yeah. Well, I was trying to think of what I can picture the routine that Chris Farley does, but I don't know. I'm sure he says something crazy. We could steal from that. We'll have
I
to
need
look
to.
that up.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that SNL skit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Have a good rest of your
Appreciate
day.
you too. Likewise.